Mr. President, thanks for your time. You have spoken a lot about the consultative nature of the NTC and the fact that this NTC is run by the NTC, but there continues to be criticism that the government is managing this process, that it's really not a process of the two shows. Could you respond to that?
Well, first of all, who comprise the NTC? The National Two-Show Council is a collection of all the elected two-shows in the country. So first of all, to be on the NTC, or to be at the NTC, you have to be elected from your villages, and you have to be the two-show or the representative in relation to some CDCs. Now, the National Two-Show Council has its independent secretariat, and yes, as part of our commitment to supporting the Indigenous people, nurturing good governance, and helping in the development and establishment of the National Two-Show Council, government support, like it is given to other ethnic groups in Guyana, like it is given to other organizations in Guyana, government support has been given to the NTC so that they can operate, so that they could have built their headquarters. So the NTC is the two shows coming together. The two shows come together at the National Two Shows Conference. The government, through the Ministry of Armed Affairs, will support the two shows coming together in terms of the logistics, in terms of the organization, in terms of the support, administrative support. But the two shows are all in the dome, independently speaking about their needs, speaking about their challenges, speaking about opportunities, and thanking the government for whatever intervention the government might have been made, and also being critical in areas that they feel there should be improvement. If one should sit in the National Two Shows Council meeting that is ongoing, the general debate, you will see that it is the two shows who are independently speaking about their villages, the development of their villages. And more importantly, we give the two shows the opportunity and the respect, very importantly, the respect as leaders to interrogate the government. That is why we have the cabinet presenting before them. That is why they have this opportunity to question the cabinet. They have this opportunity to question policy. They have this opportunity to scrutinize the delivery of various government services, and that is exactly what goes on in the dome. So, this criticism about the NTC and the two shows is one that I think is disrespectful. It is one that is crystallized in the thinking of some quarters of the country, and it's one that has only a political agenda. But the truth is, the two shows, who are democratically elected leaders of their villages, are independently exercising their rights and their judgment. Now, let me ask you a simple question. The very persons that are critical, and agencies and news outlets that are critical, you have hundreds of two shows in the dome that are speaking positively, that are speaking about the tremendous gains their communities would have made under the People's Progressive Party civic government. Has any of those presentations been highlighted? Has any of those presentations even been acknowledged by these very news outlets? The majority, overwhelming majority of two shows are making very meaningful contribution on the floor. But of course, this is not the agenda, so we don't expect that to be done.
Could it be that your government is too harsh when it comes to dissenting views? For example, yesterday the Vice President responded to one dissenting view about the negotiations regarding the carbon credit scheme, saying that two shows are free to opt in or opt out, and that was seen as disrespectful.
But that is a part of the governance system of the two shows. They have that ability to opt in and opt out. That is a fundamental right of the villages. That is a fundamental right of the two shows. That is not the Vice President speaking loosely. That is part of the governance structure. That is part of the international standard. That the villages, the two shows, they have the option to opt in and opt out. And he's not manufacturing something. That is a statement and a position of fact and respect for the governance structure of these villages.
What space is there if someone doesn't agree with you? What space do they have?
The disagreement is welcome. Every day we see people who don't disagree with us in the media. Every day I can point to articles every so often that you yourself disagree with the media, disagree with us. That is okay. That's what a democracy is about. We don't have any issue with persons disagreeing, but when you disagree, we also have a democratic right to present our case. We have a democratic right to explain our policy. We have a democratic right to defend ourselves. But every time the PPC exercise that democratic right to defend itself, some people find it offensive, and we must question that. Why do they find our democratic right to defend ourselves offensive? And that is a bigger question in the room.
Because you hold the power, people will argue.
So we are in government. So we are in government. You're critical of our policies. You're critical of something we're doing. We don't have a democratic right to respond or to explain our policy or to elaborate on our policy or to defend our policy. Something is totally wrong if that is the position.
I want to ask you about the carbon credit scheme, because there has been also some criticism there. Why is 15% allocation to indigenous communities from the sale of carbon credits reasonable and fair?
You know, you asked an interesting question, and it takes us back to the period of the APNU AFC government, when one member of the government, the sitting government then, a minister, stood up and he said, if the Amerindians should get more land, they're greedy and they should get nothing from oil and gas. What you need to understand is that this 15%, nowhere else in the world it occurs, is a direct transfer to the Amerindian people. Outside of that, they still have the budgetary allocation in the national budget from all the sectors. They still have budgetary allocation through the regions. They still have the presidential grant. They still have all the other grants that we support the community with. They still have the specific budgetary allocation that are made through the Ministry of Army Affairs. They still have the development plans that are being financed. So the 15% is what was negotiated. The 15% is a direct transfer from the LCDS. But this year, they will get 26.7%, because this year earning was not the same as last year earning. But we did not want them to get less. So instead, we match what they got last year as the lump sum. And when you look at that percentage, it's now 26.5%.
And there's room for this agreement to be looked at every year at NTCs and other forums.
At every forum, all the agreements are there. You can have open discussion and everything. You know what? Sometimes it's amazing. Who brought the Amerindian Act into place? It is the PPC government. Who brought the NTC into place? It is the PPC government. Who did the national consultation on the LCDS? It is the PPC government. Who created the multi-stakeholder committee that oversee, the steering committee that oversee the LCDS? And the APA has a seat on the multi-stakeholder committee. And who brought that into place? It is People's Progressive Party Civic. It is us, this government, who created the Ministry of Army Affairs. The indigenous people rights and circumstances was determined by a department in the Ministry of Regional Development, staffed by one person, the head of the department. In almost every single sector now, we have a specific group that is dedicated to indigenous peoples' affairs, hinterland development, and riverine development.
Can I ask you finally, next year you're stepping into another elections. I wanted to ask you, what's your overall vision for Amerindian development in Guyana?
Well, we'll have to take a few hours to discuss that. But first of all, we believe that the disparity that exists in the development paradigm between hinterland and riverine communities and what exists in the rest of the country must be bridged, and we're working aggressively on bridging that. Creating the infrastructure, investing in the platform that will allow Indigenous people to have the same opportunity like any other Guyanese, to access secondary education, to access tertiary education, to have the best possible health care, to become doctors, lawyers, engineers, nurses, to have all of these opportunities, to develop the ecosystem in their villages so that they can have prosperity in their villages, they can have decent livelihood, they can have economic expansion, they can have social services, their culture and heritage can be kept intact, and they can be part of the modern transformation of our country.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.